once you're at altitude and see how it works for you.
So let me ask you this. So one of the things, and we are kind of going back about this today, it's like one of the things that I started doing was extending out when you're in holding pattern, waiting to push. I was doing more of a longer leg, so 10 miles. So, for example, you get to the waypoint and you turn, and I go about 10 miles out, and then I turn around and come back. Now, when Pappy's leading the way, then he's just doing this circle.
Oh,
And
Reflected's going to be mad at you, man.
well, he's the one that said it. It's the AI that does it.
Right. Yeah, it's the AI.
Right,
It's
right,
the
right.
AI. Yeah, he's that Pap. So you're doing the right thing. You're doing what you're supposed to do.
Right. Now,
Yeah.
but then I got to, but the only downside is when Pappy's doing it, you got to time it. And we were talking about this and how satisfying
Yeah.
it is to start doing this and getting to the, okay, now I know it's going to take me 2 minutes to get back, and you line up and then you go. But
Yeah.
then if I've got to sync up with Pappy, because now I've got to be right next to his elderly arse as we push.
Yeah, and I'm yeah, it's tough, but I think I agree with you. It's tough following Pappy, right? And we've talked about that, trying to keep stable and so I think to some extent I let Pappy get a little bit ahead of me and let him get a little bit away from me.
Yep.
But
yeah, and I'm not suggesting that you shouldn't. You should just. I'm not advocating the screw you Pappy strategy. rather, I'm saying these are some of the challenges that I've had.
Oh yeah.
And where I think that I'm better now is making sure I understand where Pappy is or where he's going, so I can sync off of him better. And that's something coming out of I wasn't doing in Mission 1 initially, and taking that into consideration. I think that I'm much more aware of that.
Right. So so that's Marshall and for Mission 1, which again we'll come back and we'll do Mission 2, but for Mission 1 it's sort of stay near Pappy and trust him to cross your push point on time and on track and on speed. And then the next thing I learned to do is you're his wing. So after you separate, you have to honor his position as wing. But I pump my speed up a little bit. My ground speed, right? Because that's the other thing. That's what you're tracking. Anyone who can answer this question, please feel free in the comments. My chiropractor, I don't actually have one, but I probably should. As I'm trying to read that ground speed, that true ground speed, that gauge is in a horrible position. Like I'm tilted over and leaning like this, trying to see it while I'm trying to stay level and in my right dive angle. But in any case, that's the leg, the descent leg. I try and use gravity and a little bit of engine power to push as far forward as I can. And that's where I try and buy my time.
Yeah. I think Justin, if you listen to this, I think that would be a great add-on to he's the one that put together he's with the 112 and he's got the weapons panel. But I tell you, that would be a very welcome addition to the hardware to get the true airspeed indicator that you could just look down and see rather than trying
or any actual Phantom pilots out there. What are we doing wrong? Is my field of view set wrong, or is there some trick to looking at it? Because man, that's pretty awkward. But yeah, I try and build the time there, and I just you remember Brian Scholl, the late Brian Scholl, great Brian Scholl,
SR-71.
I remember hearing him in multiple interviews saying one of the biggest things about an SR-72 pilot's skill level was making gas while you were in the air, right?
71
so they
or 72?
What did I say?
You said SR-72?
Oh yeah, that was a special one. We don't need that's
you're not supposed to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm not supposed to talk about it. It's double secret probation. Yeah, the SR-71. Sorry. U2 SR-71. It's all in there somewhere. He would talk about making gas, how they had their fuel ladder, and if you're a smooth, good pilot, you figure out how you can beat your fuel ladder and essentially make gas. And that's what I've been trying to do in getting that speed, getting a little in buying time, buying fuel and buying time by using that gravity. especially when you're coming down the descent leg.
Yeah, no, that makes, I think that makes sense. I think that to your point though, I think when, and again, we'll go into the details on mission two, but I think part of my learning there was fuel management.
Oh yeah.
And to your point, once you start learning it, I think it just becomes second nature. And
Hmm.
especially once you get into the mission, you're going to figure out where you're going to expend more,
Right.
or some of the things that might get you in trouble,
Yeah.
and you'll learn that.
The other thing I'm sure it's there. It may be in reflected documentation. It may be just the core documentation. And I'm not there yet to do it the right way. I'm sure that actual aviators would, which is to calculate burn rates.
Mm.
But um, my first recollection of it was talking to F-14 guys in the fleet who would talk about their fuel ladder when we were discussing, I'm on a ship and they're running the cap intercepts and we're in our pre-planning meetings for the strike group. And they're talking about fuel ladder, which is essentially, okay, at this point in the mission, where should I be? And I think that's the next thing I want to get on the cockpit side, is just a little touch point of, and I'm doing it by trial and error now, right? Like, if I push my IP with this many 1,000 pounds of fuel, I'm good. And
Hmm.
if I below that, I need to make a decision. Am I going to try and buy some fuel back, or am I going to try and hit the tanker?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, so in the two times that I've played mission one several times, but the two more recent times,
Mhm.
because we're talking about it today, I I was fine on fuel. I was mindful of it, but at the end of the day, and I did drop tanks, but I did when I went across, almost immediately I went across, and I got nailed by that Smoky Sam.
Mhm.
And I know you know, I'm at 300 feet, probably 500. So I don't know if clearly I'd be better at 12,000 or 15,000 from that
Yeah.
Sam, but yeah, banking left did not do me any good twice.
Well, and let's talk about that. I haven't broken the code on that either. I and when I go back and look in TAC view, I feel like, and feelings are dangerous, right? We don't want to plan military operations on feelings, but I feel like if I stay low between 300 and about 375 feet, and am jinking and porpoising nearly continuously, uh, fast but out of burner, it feels like the only times I get hit, or I even get shot at, really, are if I directly overfly the Smoky Sam. And I don't know that
Mm.
till I'm back in TAC view, right? The times I've been
Right.
hit lately, I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's been, you know, Sam break, and then pretty soon, before I'm even through, roll, pull the turn, I'm being hit. So it does feel like really low, not in burner, porpoising and jinking seems to help.
Now, have you ever damaged the aircraft from jinking? And
Not yet. I'm sure
so
the time will come.
I have.
Really?
Uh, yes. So from what I understand, so the when I was like, what is this wheel light flashing? Have you ever had that?
Okay, I've done that. Would I've screwed up my rotation? Yeah, yeah, I've
Well,
I've done that.
so if you've got, well, there's a different wheel light. And one of my I think I sent you the video of that little famous my trick
Yeah.
to escape the SAM. But when I do that, if I exceed a certain speed or something like that,
Mhm.
I can look, and all of a sudden I see the wheel lights flashing up on the
Mhm.
console. And what it means is, and again, if I'm wrong, which as my wife would say, I'm wrong quite a bit. But what it is that there's a hydraulic problem. So I've done something to damage the jet. And if you
Interesting.
look in the
Okay.
hydraulic gauge and there are two of them, you can see one is low pressure.
Okay.
And so I've done something that's damaged it. Now, what I haven't had it do is impact the score.
Mhm.
Uh, but but it was something interesting. I was like, oh, so that's what that means. So I
Yeah.
was looking it up. I thought I
Well, I'll
just,
be honest. I've seen the wheel light flash, and I remember reading something that it was, but it obviously didn't take with me. So maybe I have damaged it jinking, but and not even realized it.
yeah. And it's interesting though. I mean, from my 2 cents is that once, and again, this kind of goes back to what we've talked about before is both you and I use the Rhino force feedback
Mhm.
stick.
Right.
And so that provides you some additional, um, you know,
Input.
yeah, absolutely. If
Feedback.
sitting there go
Literal
when I'm,
feedback. Yeah.
yeah, it gives you the feedback on the force feedback stick.
Yeah. Yeah.
but
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 I mean, it's not to be facetious, but it's one more piece of data on what the aircraft is doing.
yeah, absolutely. And or whether I have air, I often don't even need to look at the airspeed because I
Right.
know what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
if it's all if it's all noodly, I know that I'm running out of speed pretty
Yeah.
quickly.
I mean,
So
even just in Marshall, right? 15K, 15,000
yep.
feet, trying to conserve fuel when I was, sort of coming down. Oh, this is too low. This is definitely too low. And then, oh, this is getting mushy. But
Well,
yeah.
yeah, and again, just talking about marshaling, and we were kind of going about it. We were talking about the other day in Mission 2, you're at 22,000,
Mhm.
but here Marshall in Mission 1 is 15 or 18. Sorry,
Yeah.
18,000.
18. That's right.
But it's very different in
Mhm.
terms of how the jet behaves and feels. It's a
Yeah.
big deal.
Very big deal. But yeah, but back to the Smoky Sam's. It's
Yeah, yeah.
it's I have found I'm sort of investigating now whether it's better for me to hold on to the countermeasures dispense or give them to Jester. And
Mm.
I haven't decided yet. Because I've had a couple where I've had both Smoky Sam's and SA2 shot at me, and we haven't dispensed flares. And I have given countermeasures to Jester. So I'm not sure if it's better for me to keep them or not.
So now, and again, this is my ignorance. Can you do? Is it either or can you both do it?
You can do both. Like, it doesn't take away your ability to drop them.
Mm.
Of course, in my mind, and this is, I'm not an actual combat pilot, right? Like, so I'm like, oh, in my mind, I gave that to Gesture. So when I go evasive, I'm not thinking about, well, I better thumb some out. He's thumbing some out, right? It's that
Yeah.
crew resource management thing, and I'm just assuming he's going to do it. And if I'm being honest, I don't think I realize in the moment. It's when I go look at TAC view, I'm like, why are there not flares spewing out my jet here?
Yeah, it's interesting because I with the force feedback stick, I'll feel it when the expendables are.
Really? I'll have to
Yeah,
pay a little more attention. I don't know if I've noticed that.
yeah. No, I feel it, and I it's like a thump, and I know if it's going or if it's not. And
Interesting.
sometimes I'm worried that I've because I've been doing it both. Like I don't trust
Mhm.
Jester bastard.
Yeah.
So or nice bastard, but I'll be flying, and then I'm just like Sam, and immediately I do it.
Yeah.
So, and with certain missions, I kind of have my own, like, which way do I turn
Yeah.
that have been successful for me. And so I have my learned habits, depending on the mission,
Yeah.
but I'm the one that generally pops it. And
Mhm.
maybe that's why I run out so fast, because he's doing the same thing.
That's my fear. That's why I don't want to do it, because I have run out, fast forwarding to another mission where, oh, I've done that. I've hit that target. Now I'm covering down on another. And oh, here's SA6 is coming at me. All right, let's go for the deck. And I have no flares.
Rocket 1-1.
Yeah, you're
You're
dead.
dead. Yeah. Yeah. No, that is, I've heard that. I used to be sad about Pepsi 1-1, but
Yeah,
no.
that's right.
So,
So you have a direction based on the mission or based on the locale, or how do you choose?
based on the mission, based on the location within the
Yeah.
mission, where it gets called and what I do and
Okay.
what I've survived. So, and and that's in mission 2 primarily.
Okay.
So, but, and if in mission 1, I've just died.
Okay. Fair enough. I always turn starboard at the bottom of the hour.
and,
Old cultural reference there.
I, I understand, Captain.
So let's see. So that's getting past the Smoky Sam's, and then you make your right hand turn and start your run up to the IP. And you and I have both mentioned that. Oh, look, there's ZSUs there, and we found that out in the most uncomfortable way possible.
Right. It's like, well, and the other thing is like some days they'll get you, and other days
Yeah.
they will not. And I wonder about this. So sometimes if I'm ahead of it, I'm gonna be on time, but if I'm a little fast,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like their reaction time might be slower. At least I've rationalized that.
Yeah.
That they may not be activated, or I may.
Yeah. That's interesting because I'm trying to get right on the point. So I've never been that much ahead, but now that you mention it, I'm wondering if they have trigger points, because the AI have trigger points too, right? So interesting.
Well, there's also the randomization, and I don't know what
Sure.
the randomization within the mission happens to be
Right.
either.
But that's just like real life, right? So you just sort of got to deal with it.
Sure.
And if you see the tracers start to porpoise, and hope you've assessed right, porpoise up or down.
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to talk about how you, especially on the on mission 1, since that's what we're on, and you're told to pop to 15,000 feet minimum.
Yep.
Now your wingman stays at something like 8 or 9K, and I'm still not sure why that is. Maybe safety of flight separation or something, right? Like so that you have pre-planned actions on the objective. But how do you do it? Because I've watched some of the people's videos, but I go back to our friend Sunshine, Brian Sinclair, from Through Wire Productions, and has done stuff for us on Authentic. And I asked him, I said, when you would roll into a target, were you go over on your wing and then rudder over like a World War II dive bomber, or push the nose over? And he said he liked to roll almost inverted and pull his nose down through the target. And I've been doing that, and it works for me pretty well.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing more recently, and I think we've talked about it, and so maybe that was my influence. But yeah, when I pop up, I go up and then I roll over, and then right side up and then go. But yeah, so it did not help me as I've mentioned, it didn't help me in this one. But for me, I pop up and then roll over if I'm directionally correct with the HSI. Roll over, pull down, and try to get nose on or the right angle.
See, and this is probably completely just my lack of skill. I will tend to pop to the 15K and a little more, and then roll inverted, because I have a hard time coming right at the target and seeing over the nose to see where I am. So I either have to angle off a little bit, or stay inverted for a while, because my other problem is I tend to get buck fever, and that's why I come in too shallow.
Yeah. No. So just to be clear, so when I pop, I'm going straight up. I make sure that I look at the HSI. I make sure that I've angled the aircraft such that it's with the target, and then as soon as I reach 15K, I'll roll the aircraft over on its back and then pull down into it, and then right side up.
So roll inverted, pull nose down through the target, and then your rudder roll is going to bring you about where you want to be. Yeah,
that's a good point to talk about rudders.
Yes. No, go ahead.
So for those, well, actually, you've got the inverted.
Yes, I've suffered the high speed brake against the SAM from altitude. This is going to be great. Wait, why is my stick motion taking me the other way? Well, guess what? Because you may want to go play reflected MiG killers, which teaches you a lot about at what speed your control inversion happens.
Yeah, your adverse
yaw.
Yeah, exactly. So when you have adverse yaw, it's another thing that you also are going to have with the F-100 when that comes out, I believe. That's going to be a treat.
Yeah, especially at high angles of attack. And Shine's going to do a piece on that. But I'm fascinated for the F-100 to come out from. We'll talk about that another time. I'll go off on a Roger rabbit hole. If I'm not. Oh, just I think I recommended the book to you, Bury Us Upside Down: The Misty
Yes.
Facts in Vietnam, and yeah, fascinating book about the F-100 and that experience.
So, just for guess we can talk about anything. So this weekend I went to Houston and met with Diesel Thunder. He invited me and Brian Albaugh to go over and visit the aircraft over at the Collins Foundation, and so it was just super nice. What a great guy! So we're going to have an episode that we're going to release on that, and that was fantastic. So it may be out before or after this, I don't know,
Mhm.
but just fantastic. But I got a chance to go around the only flying F-100 that exists today, which
Wow.
is Collins. And so I got a chance to walk around and capture some video, and it was just a neat experience. So ton of fun.
Yeah. Well, that's so we're as we're talking through the mission, and like we said, we can sort of go wherever we want. Um,
Thank you for bringing us back, though.
yeah, no worries, no worries. Well, I'm actually going to take us sort of right back out because you've talked about your Summer of the Phantom, and I'll let you talk about all the memorabilia is not even the right word for it that you're collecting.
Yeah.
But what is so cool about flying these kind of campaigns, these missions that are highly researched in a module like the F4 that has been so highly researched is, and I'm stealing Rob's words here because Rob has said this almost since I met him. When you were a kid, you learned so much about airplanes by building a model kit. There are shapes, there are spatial relationships you just don't get from 3D line drawings, and this just takes it all to the next level of understanding how it all fits together. And for example, I saw a picture about a week or two ago, it doesn't really matter, of Robin Old's actual F4. I think it's in the Air Force Museum in Dayton, if I'm not mistaken. And it's an inside the cockpit picture. And I saw it and I immediately went, well, that's not an F4E. And I looked at the caption, yeah, it's an F4C, right? Because I'm looking at it, I'm like, no, and it was something small. I think it was the relationship of the weapons control panel
Yep.
dials. But
You know,
yeah.
it's fun. It's funny you say that. So they have an F4D
Hmm.
at the Collins Foundation. Then that's part of what I got to crawl around on the other day when I was in Houston.
Yeah.
And so it was operational, and they're getting it back going, and they were hoping to get it done, I think, sooner.
Hmm.
But I think it's going to be the spring. But it takes time to get those aircraft up operational.
Yeah.
But they've painted it to Robin Olds,
Hmm.
and they did it with the aircraft from the Bolo mission.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So for those that don't know the Bolo mission, um, and again, that's part of my Summer of the Phantom, and this is what has been so cool, just to sort of tag along to what you were saying, is that as I've called it the Summer of the Phantom, where I've just gone deep dive into it, reading books about it, and I think getting to go to Houston and seeing it in person, and all around, and I'll post some pictures and videos around that, but that's been part of the whole immersion, right? And so how
Hmm.
do we get to know it? And that's
Yeah.
been a ton of fun.
Yeah. It's awesome. I mean, the things, because we've all read the books, and be it Flight of the Intruder or I'm blanking on Dan Hampton's book on
Wild Weasel. No,
on
no,
the
it
um
was,
his book on weasels, and I'm blanking on what it's called right now. But really now seeing and understanding, like, oh, I see that smoke trail. Oh, that's a lot further away than I thought it was going to be. Okay, I now I understand. I'm going to look and I'm going to decide what I'm going to do, and then it's like, oh my god, it's here now.
is it
Like you.
yeah, Viper Pilot?
No, no, no. He has one specifically about. I think it's Dan Hampton that
Yeah, I
did
think it is.
the history of seed. I'm going to look here. I think I did mine on Kindle. I'll have to take a look.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, but we'll find it. We'll
we'll
put it in the
find
show
him.
notes.
Yeah.
But my point being, like, getting a visual of, the SA2 or the SA6 coming up at you and realizing, oh, I see that a long way away. Now I can start to make a decision. But in the end game, it is so fast. And there's been a couple times that I have evaded, and I'm like, oh, did I just pull too early? No, he missed me. And then when I go back and look at tack view, I'm like, oh, that was actually an awful lot closer than I thought it was.
Right, right. Well, and I think it's important to note is that, when we talk about this experience, that people go, someone say, "Oh, can you fly now?" No,
No.
no, no.
I'm relatively certain that with a qualified ground crew, I could start a Phantom.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. With
Yeah.
with the chief.
With a chief. I am more certain I could crash a Phantom. Beyond
I
that, all
agree.
bets are off. Yeah.
But that being said,
Yeah.
and again, I've enjoyed building models of Phantoms. I enjoy, I enjoy my, other,
Nice.
but at the end of the day, what I would say is that it's not either or, and it doesn't.
Right.
But what it is an experience, right? And that's
Yeah.
part of what we're trying to do. And flying these missions is getting to know the aircraft better. But it
Right.
doesn't mean that I somehow have some rack of ribbons. That
No, no. Let's be
virtual
clear.
ribbon.
Now, I will say, if I'm the only guy in the Phantom who didn't have the fish for dinner, and we got to land this baby, I'll put Dawn at Mucho Grande behind me, and I'll try and take the stick. And probably
Yeah.
better than someone who's never done it before. Another
Right.
35-year-old cultural movie reference there.
And no, I indeed.
Yeah, but
Roger.
I will say that it's like you said, it's the experience, and for me, and I've told you this before, it's made me a better interviewer. Even like I can talk more intelligently
Yep.
to some of the pilots about what they do and what they've done. And again, not no stolen valor here, not trying to say that.
Absolutely
But it's
not.
just and I think the example I gave you is I'm talking with two guys who are pretty relative legends in the Marine Corps, Chip Burke and Lance Lewis, and they're talking about various experiences with landing at the carrier. And I'm off the Phantom now, obviously talking about the Legacy Hornet, and they're talking about lining up for their overhead brakes and rolling into the groove. And before, it was always, okay, I've watched the videos and yeah, I've heard it, but now having done this, I'm like, oh, I really understand the nuance and the difficulty of what you're saying now. Not that I didn't think it was difficult before, but
Right.
it's such a great way to better understand the history if you really enjoy that sort of thing.
Right. And it's been fascinating. So in my Summer of the Phantom, one of the things that I've been doing is I've been reaching out and getting to know some of the folks in the open Phantom community. There's a guy, I mean, it's amazing. They're making there's an open Hornet community as well. But part of what they're doing is replicating and basically making all the switches and the switchology and everything
Yeah.
in a full replica for the Phantom, just like
Yeah.
folks have done it for the Hornet and the A10 and the like. And it's just, so when you talk about the experience and the depth and also developing new skills. So, as I said, as you've known, I've got this.
I was about to bring
there
this
it
up,
is.
so you wouldn't have to do a self promotion. Yeah, Rob's been working on 3D printing and creating an actual Phantom stick adapter.
Right, and 3D printed, painted. Here come my dogs because they love the 3D stick. They think they're getting a snack.
They
or
think
something.
it's a bone.
They'll eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, it's part of the experience, and I'm also developing some new skills, getting to use a 3D printer for doing things more than printing frogs, and it's been a ton of fun.
Yeah.
So now we'll pull it back.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's pull it back to sort of we talked about rolling over and getting on target, and even go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I think, the other thing I would say is that when you're done with your mission, once you've released your ordnance, you want to get out of there and be smart about getting out, and don't give up and just go to 20,000 feet because they're still waiting for you.
Yeah. So yeah, well, I'm going to take even a step back and just say that the frustration of not really internalizing decades of reading aviation history and watching the tutorials of, I wasn't quite straight or not straight, but I wasn't, I was yawing in the dive essentially, right? Too much rudder motion and having my reticle right on and having the bombs just go, yeah, you told us to go a little bit this way and being off target. But then, yeah, to your point, uh, your mission, yeah, your weapons are expended, but theirs aren't. So get low,
Right.
stay fast, and watch for the threats. So if we're being really specific to mission one, my preference is to go through the target area, banking a little bit, and there's that little valley to the south of the target, almost
Mhm.
directly off, and I get as low as the hard deck lets me in that. And then even though that takes me closer to the SA2 battery that's to the south of the target, which tends to target you and shoot at you, that SA2 has gotten me when I've been further from it but stayed higher or not used that valley. When I use that valley, I think I'm not giving it enough time to establish a track or get a good shot on me.
Mm, that makes sense. Now, the other thing, just as a note, I
Yeah.
didn't think when I first started flying this mission, I didn't think that I would get to know that area. I just thought, in reflective references, this is just
Yeah.
desert, right?
Yeah.
But holy smokes, I know
Mhm.
Belted Peak, I
Yep.
know Quartzsite Mountain, I know,
Quartzsite
a-
Mountain. Yeah.
and so there are all
Texas
these
Lake.
Texas Lake and Plaza Nugget,
Yeah.
and so that it's not something in passing. As a matter of fact, I think that's part of the experience is getting to know the locations in the land.
hmm and I will say I'm not 100% on this yet because I haven't done enough to make this as a 100% assessment. But by flying Nellis so much in this same area and learning Nellis so well, I'm sure there's others who know it far better than I do, but knowing it as well as I do now, it's also making me better at other maps because I'm learning
Mm,
what to read on the ground. I'm just getting a better sense of, as a guy who's not an aviator, right? Like me. Quick analogy. It always baffled people who didn't spend a lot of time on the bridge or didn't spend a lot of time topside, how those of us who stood those watches could see bumps on the horizon and be like, well, that's a Spruance class. Well,
yeah, yeah.
that's a class 3 tanker. They're like, there's bumps on the horizon. Well, you start to learn sort of the shapes you're looking for and you start to learn the patterns. It's a lot like if you've ever done one of those little reading tricks where they misspell words,
Mm,
but you don't notice it till they tell you about it because your eye looks for the pattern of the word that you've
yeah.
been taught to read. I feel like I'm developing that same skill by doing so much time over Nellis that now I'm learning, even if it's the Marianas right map. If I'm going back to do something there, when I'm coming over the islands, I'm starting to learn better what the shading and shadowing looks like and understanding the role of the train. And I thought that was pretty cool too.
Yeah, it's interesting. So one of as mentioned, Brian Aubaugh, he's the gent that went with me over to Houston, and he and I have also recorded a podcast that I got to get processed and out about reading the Ed Rasmus books.
Mm,
Um, but the interesting thing he's done, and he's also an engineer, so he does the engineer thing. He's gone out to Google Earth, and he's the one that pointed me this direction, and he's sort of
mm.
he's mapped all these things
Oh
out.
wow.
So he's he's in he's got Google Earth Pro because he does all this stuff as an engineer. But he's gone out and he's identified all these different locations. So he's gone above and beyond, and I think this is just part of his engineering mind, kind of like your swell mind, where
Yeah.
you have to make it all sort of sync up in a way that makes
hmm
sense.
Yeah.
And to speak to him, he started going down this road of the mission, and then the procedures of just getting the Phantom started, and if you don't do one thing, something else goes
hmm
south, and then you end up nothing's aligned, and the generator's not started or things like that, and that's been a challenge for him. But
Yeah.
all that to say, you know I always I've spent so much time in the NTTR map now that I'm like, and then I've seen some of the other ones, I'm like, oh, they really need to upgrade this map. He really needs some more detail. It's
Like
not
just a
the
little like fine detail of the landscape.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So but
Yeah.
if
No, fair
I'm
enough. But
I think there are probably other higher priorities for Matt Wagner
right.
and the Ed folks.
uh, A6 module. I'm just saying.
Ooh, yeah.
I'm
Well,
A6
I think
module.
that's
I'm just saying.
well. The good news is I think that's with Heatblur, and
Yeah.
so the same folks that
Okay.
brought us to 14 and the but yeah, I think if they want to throw some more people at it and that'll work,
Yeah.
then by all means bring us
I
that A6.
mean, as much as I love the Phantom, if I could get my Devil 505 on, I would love that.
Yeah, yeah. Imagine when you're going to be able to fly side by side with
Yeah.
someone on a. That's yeah,
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Rob, you can be my passenger princess anytime.
It's been a thanks, man. I appreciate that.
You work the radio, you do the snacks, I'll do the
Yes.
driving. It'll be fine.
I think you know who would be great at that. I'm going to tell.
Yep.
So, home fries.
Yeah.
Um, so for those
Actually,
that
yeah,
don't know,
yeah.
Home Fries, who is in the DCS, but he's also a former P3 navigator.
Mhm.
When I was first met him, he actually was the backseater in an F-15 flight I was doing. He walked me through everything. He was
Yeah.
amazing. So if there's anybody to pair with, I think he'd be
Yeah.
amazing at that.
And teach you. Yeah. So
Yeah.
getting back to the missions to sort of close it out, I think at that point we're sort of, you do your climb out once you cross the FIBA and watch your fuel. And I think the only thing that's really tripped me up, and I'm going to let you say, because I know the thing that tripped you up the other morning that you were just like, oh, I think it was mission 2 actually, but oh, lo and behold, we didn't know that was a procedure that'll bust your mission. Um, what I found out painfully is um, don't circle if you and Pappy are sort of close but not close enough that they recognize the join up, don't try and circle. Just work your throttles, because I ended up trying to circle. He was actually behind me, and we just sort of ended up in like this wheel as I'm trying to catch up with him, and it's pretty painful, and it burned a lot of fuel, and it took me down lower than I wanted to be. So that was one, and then coming home is coming home, right? You hit your marks, you go back to TACAN whenever you choose to go back to TACAN. You and I do it differently. But then, yeah, that last thing that you found out the other night.
Yeah. So I was coming in and I knew, I mean, this is one of those times that I'm like, okay, I've got it. And then at the very last, I think I was at 3,700 when I needed to be at 3,500 feet. And it's, you know, rocket 1-1 altitude. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? And then a few other words. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, really?
Yeah. And you nailed everything in that mission except procedures. And to the best of your knowledge, that was it.
That was it.
I got to tell you, rocket check altitude or rocket check altitude block, I don't know if I hate that more or less than rocket 1-1, you're dead. I actually feel like it's worse, because rocket 1-1, you're dead is like, I tried, I broke, I dropped flares. Sometimes it's not your day. But
yeah,
check altitude. Oh, I just screwed that up.
Well, and I think the other thing is that if you're doing the missions, here's the other thing that sometimes, because you're investing the time to get the aircraft started, to fly up, to wait to push and go. When you do get in, you will die, and these things will, you'll have that rocket 1-1, you're dead, but keep going. Because you can learn, and that's one of the things Reflected puts out there. It's like, hey, you still have the chance to learn, and
well, and that's what they did at Red Flag, right? Like if you were a striker, you kept going. If you were air to air, you had to reset, because don't waste the training opportunity.
Right, and I think the same thing is for DCS. Is like, you're going to learn something from it, and even though I know I've sat there and go, crap, that's like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And especially when you get further down and you're kind of honing what your last piece of, you're trying to get that 100%. It can be frustrating, but I think the other thing is definitely stick with the procedures, follow the procedures, and watch his videos. They're 9-minute chunks, unlike what we've put together tonight.
Maybe we'll cut this up for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Indeed. But I would definitely that would be something I say get going, get operational, get out there
Yeah.
and just expect to it won't be the more that you learn in mission 1 and then mission 2, it'll all pay off
Mhm.
as you keep going.
And then, my closing thought on that is tack view, tack view, tack view. Go back
Mm,
to your tack view. You don't have to pay for the baseline version.
right.
Go get it. And I learn more watching my tack view than I do respectfully from reflected score. Reflected score tells me where to look for what
Right.
I did wrong, but tack view really helps me through it, and it helps it. That's sort of where I got the huh. So if I directly overfly the Smoky Sam, I'm sorta in trouble. I haven't broken that code yet, but it also helps me with um oh, the porpoising over here worked. Or like one time I was over Belted Peak doing my orbit and I took a Smoky Sam. I remember you saying to me, well, if you stay over 15K, you're safe. And I'm like, I don't know about that because I think I was over
Mm,
15K. And I go back and I look at the tack view. I'm like, oh, look, moron, you dipped down under. And so that's why. And, you start to learn, which is what they really do, right? We've talked to enough guys, we've interviewed enough people, we have enough friends who have lived the life. And it's the same thing in expeditionary warfare. It's the same thing in surface warfare. You learn more in the debrief than you do during the exercise.
right. Yeah, it's and I think it's a really good point on the tac view piece of it. Take the time. And again, it doesn't you don't have to have and again, this is just saying, hey, if you're doing these campaigns by yourself, it can be a ton of fun. You can learn an awful lot to it,
Mm-hmm.
including how to fly the aircraft. I
Yeah.
think that's been a big deal. The other thing, just one note is that, I don't know if it's going to be for mission 1, but when you go to Belted Peak, and if that's your rally point, it's not too far from the container. St- if you're gonna circle it, go north.
Yeah.
'Cause rotating south, you
Left
could,
hand turn, guys. Left hand turn.
yeah. And the only other thing I'd say is that sometimes when I get busted on procedures, Reflected says, well, you'll know because of something that you'll see in the notifications.
Mhm.
I don't know. I've busted a procedure and I don't know why. So I think that's still mysterious
I'm
to me in
trying.
some
I'm
cases.
trying to think if I have. I'm trying to think. Really, be honest with myself because I like when you hear rocket check blocks. Okay, you're done. You're done on
Yeah.
procedures now. Um. One that you brought up that's really, and I don't know if it's failed us. Right, we don't actually know because I've never since you brought it up, and I'll tell everyone what it is in a second. I've never been in a situation where I forgot to do this and got procedures and upcheck, right? But I don't know if it was something else. And that's putting in your mode 3 code, right? So, and
Mm,
again, it's not in mission 1. And in fact, to the best of my knowledge, the channel 2 and channel 11 aren't even scripted in mission 1 when you go to
right.
get your air control data. But from mission 2 on, little things like when they give you your mode 3 IFF, which is 6101 for mission 2, um, it's in the checklist. Check your IFF. But
Right.
it's really easy to be like, okay, turn IFF to standby,
Right.
right? And then I've now gone through the manual and I make it a point to do the test button for my mode 2 and my mode 3, which then reminds me, oh, I better put in my code here, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Because
Yep.
we're pretty sure that'll bust you on procedures if you don't put in your code when you're the flight lead.
Yeah. No, for sure. And let me see if I can find it real quick here. But I think the other thing that has been helpful for me, because I'm old, um, is trying to is to put things in documentation form.
Mhm.
And let's see. No, I don't have it. But anyways, my point is that I've printed out some of the like the in-flight guide stuff
Mhm.
and F4 stuff, like for example, mills and things like that. And I just put it together in something that I could actually flip open and reference
Mhm.
it. I know that doesn't work in VR unless you get your fancy headset. I think BD's got a fancy VR head kneeboard thing.
Mhm.
Um, but I think making sure you have the right information available to you. And I just can't say enough about writing the time uh,
On the canopy.
hacks, yeah, on the
Yeah.
canopy, because I'll just say that for me, being able to look over there and then look at the clock just back
Hmm.
and forth as opposed to trying to do mental math in my head at this point, it's just so much easier. So it's a
Right.
great tool. And I also sometimes put in there like, oh, okay, this is the speed I need to be exiting.
Yep.
And just to remember those little things, that little nuance. So being able to write it on the canopy is huge.
Right. And then I'll like sometimes I'll do whatever my turn off of target is, right? Because that's not when I want to be looking at my knee
Mm,
board. And I know Jester's putting it in for me and I should have it memorized, but a quick glance as I'm rolling into target, okay, I'm going to come off on 300 or 080, whatever it
yeah.
happens to be. The other thing I'll do is, and it's more important in mission 1 than it is mission 2, which is the Shrikes, but I'll do the bomb um, checklist, but then I'll also grease pencil my key weapons settings on the canopy
Mm,
because I'm trying to. I started setting up my weapons on the ground, but now I'm at the point where I'm trying to get enough immersion that I do it with my fence in checks when we call
mm.
for them. And I don't like pulling up the thing that takes up that big portion of the screen while I'm trying to maintain my altitude in the turn and check my speed and manipulate my switches. It's so much easier just to look over. And there's somebody out there going, "Hey, morons, why don't you just get an actual knee board?" Which is probably a very valid comment.
I think it probably is a very valid comment. But I think but at the same time, it's also, there are all these little nuanced things. Like, for example, when you're fence in, for example, you have to, one of the big things is roll log off.
Yeah,
So roll augmentation off. And so you have to do that. And when you fence out, you put it back on. But sometimes it's like, are you using the mouse or have you
yeah,
mapped a button to it? And so mapping
right.
buttons
Is crucial.
it is huge.
And
So
I've got a lot of things mapped to buttons, and I use the upfront controller for the F-18, and I just like my roll logs are like I think the bottom 3 numbers of the keyboard, right? And
yeah,
like I've the knobs that I don't remember what they do in the F-18, but then the knobs across the bottom of that
yeah.
UFC, like those are mapped to like my weapon selectors and my IFF channel selectors and stuff like that. I've gone so far is considering getting a left-handed mouse so that I could
Mm.
have a mouse on either side. Because one of my least favorite things is taxiing out and yes, I know I could make the button a on off instead of a hold it, but the nose wheel steering, right, which you're going to hold on your stick to make your
Yeah.
rudder steer your pedal. I'm going for authenticity. Well, now I'm like, well, my mass is on my right hand side, and I've got to turn my oxygen on, and that's not something I want to waste a map switch to. So I'm like, now I'm left hand on the stick holding that button, right hand over on the mouse trying to do this. So yeah, I'm actually playing around with the idea of maybe getting a left-handed mouse so that whichever hand needs to go for it
Yep.
can.
Yeah, no, it's funny you say that because I think, and this was funny. So I've got the weapons panel for the F4 from Justin over on your 12. Now, what I do, so if you look at it, it's got left inboard, left outboard, center, and right
Mhm.
inboard, right outboard, and gun. So it's got those buttons. So when I'm going to fence in, I hit 2 buttons at the same time. Well, interestingly enough, he's used that combination to reboot.
Oh.
so so all of a sudden the machine, and
Yeah,
I don't know why I decided to do that, but for me it was pushing the same buttons, left inboard and right inboard at the same time. Well,
yeah,
that's his little key code that he programmed into it to reboot the thing. So the next
yeah,
thing I'm doing, I'm trying to fence in, and I'm
yeah.
watching here comes a USB disconnect.
Hey, who else but Jake Coolhand Grafton would think to cut the engines out when being chased by a MiG?
Indeed, that was cool.
Now I'm going to have PTSD from a very unfortunate incident in the Persian Gulf where we might have had a guy accidentally turn off our entire Aegis display system. Whole nother story for another time. Boy, there's a story there.
Well,
But anyway, that's for another time. All right. Well, what an
that's
hour,
great.
hour 20 some. So
Yeah,
far, what did
perfect.
we miss?
I don't know. I think we've talked about it. I'm sure we can go into more details. I think this is great for a first episode.
Yeah,
It probably lasts about as long as the first mission, right?
that's right. And I'll just say, look, if you play DCS and you play solo and you're doing campaigns like this, find a friend to bounce these ideas off of, or throw something in the comments here. I mean, I can't, we both have day jobs, we both have
Yep.
families. I can't guarantee we're going to get to you right away. I guarantee you won't always get the right answer from us.
Yep.
I know from me, at least, you'll sometimes get a snarky answer. You know, but
You
we'll
will.
try. You know, engagement is something we enjoy and that we're all about, and it's much more fun. And again, so all fairness, we're not an aviator. I'm a wardroom
Yep.
guy. I'm a team room guy. But it gets a little bit of that flavor of coming back and going, well, how do you skin this cat? Well, how do you do that? Well,
Right.
how did this work out for you? And it's pretty fun. So, hit us up in the comments.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing we can do is we have our Patreon channel
Yeah.
that we use, and we have a lot of free great content out there as well. So
Right.
I'll put a link out there as well, and so we can comment there. Maybe we'll just go ahead and comment that. You're more than free to comment here too.
Mhm.
But we'll put a link in there and for tips and tricks for going through a mission. That's probably
Yeah.
a better place to keep it more solid
Probably is.
than
Yeah.
than comment number 721.
Right.
Here.
Yeah, I agree.
So we'll try to do that.
And then, I'm open to feedback. Hey, why did you guys get off topic so much? I want to hear about how you guys figured out the mission. Or yeah, that's great, guys. You're Nimrods. I figured out the mission. Talk more about other stuff. Hey, whatever.
I did them all straight through and never and I could
The-
land an airplane, damn it.
These guys who are like, oh, the latest this game came out and like I platinumed it in 32 hours. I'm like, oh
Right.
my God.
Right. Yeah, and more power to you. And
yeah. Hey, that's not me condemning you. That's me going, yeah, that's just never going to be me.
right. No, but I like I said, I appreciate the fact that Roger has frankly pushed me to get better at it, has made my experience so much more satisfying. So I think I really feel like my Summer of the Phantom has been much better because I've been doing it. So thank you.
Well,
my
I
friend.
appreciate you saying that, and I feel the same because like when you told me you finally got the 100 across the board on mission 2, I'm like, okay, we're putting in a little more time tonight.
Oh, you're the one that pushed me. So
Well, but that's how a good team works, right?
Yeah.
Good teams are always pushing each other in a constructive way.
Yeah. So, and then as a final note, if you got to Roger's point, if you got suggestions or things else you'd like to see, and we'll be back with mission 2, and dogs running through the background.
All good.
So yeah, so we'll be back with that in a few weeks.
Yeah, sounds good, man.
All right. Thanks, buddy.